north or south. But anyhow, that's the general direction of the winds. They're light, but not a good direction for going east. Over.
Okay, I wonder if anybody's on frequency that can give us a relay, because we're just not picking up Navarra very well at all. Diego, Mr. Troy, are you on frequency yet? Over.
Relay.
Oh, here's a relay. Thank you, Graham. Go ahead.
Yeah, they went overnight to Matuku. I think you said Matuku, over.
Okay, overnight to Matutu, wherever that is.
Matuku.
Oh, Matuka. Yep, that's what they said that they were going to do. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And anything else from what he said? Matuka. Yep, I see that. Just sort of west of Palanga there. So, all right. Thank you for that. And anything else, Graham, from them?
No, that was about it. He was pretty scratchy here as well, Patricia.
Yeah, he is. Boy, I wish everyone had your radio. That would be good. Well, just stand by, everybody, and I shall give a greeting from very, very stormy Gulf Harbour. We've got thunderstorms predicted for the day. We've had torrential rain overnight. Our barometer here is 996.6, if you would believe that. Really interesting drop from last night. It was 1,000 when I went to bed, and now it's 996.6. Actually, it's a little steady, and it might even show an upwards trend. We've got quite a few fronts to get through today, or troughs, so it will be sort of oscillating a bit, and just not very pleasant. It is going to be very hard to persuade myself to go to the gym today. It's very light winds, though, 4 knots from the west-southwest at the moment. Not going to last, says David, and we did overnight get some great gusts. But, well, I think it's even picking up now from when I actually wrote this down. So, yes, not very wonderful weather here, and it's lovely to read of some of the reports from up in the islands. I'm going to go straight to Toranui, who are by the radio, so we might as well get that underway. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Patricia. Good morning, David. Well, we've woken up and it's about 40% cloud cover, but our position last night, this morning, is 2612 south, 17855 west. We're doing 6.9 knots on a course of 340 magnetic. Last night we went through that trough. We had wind started in the east, went around to the north, then slowly built to northwest. We had 30 knots for most of the night. Some pretty good gusts. Not a lot of rain, just heavy drizzle. Pretty wild, but it's come right this morning, over.
So what have you got now?
We've got about 14, 18 knots from the southwest, over.
Well, you certainly made some progress since yesterday, haven't you? So we've got Toranui with 14 to 18 knots from the southwest at 2612 and 17855 west. So good speed for Toranui, though. 6.9. You'll be happy with that, over?
Yeah, right to that. In fact, we're heading 7 now. We're heading for Minerva Reef, over.
Okay, 4 boats in there at the moment, so they'll have the red carpet out for you to come in. You'll see the masts. Southerlies tomorrow, says David. So still in a good direction for you. So all sounds good on board. And good morning to Lynn as well. If you could just hover by the radio in case I need some help, Graham, would be helpful, over.
Yep, right to that. We're standing by.
Yeah, I can. David's just pointed out where you are, and I see that the worst of that muck has gone through, and we were following Elisham's reports too, because last night they looked as if they might actually miss it, but they got it, and they've got rain and stuff at the moment, or last night as well, and they've got northwest 15 to 20 at the moment, and they're down at 29.5 and 177. East, so it looked as if it was going to miss them, but it's just dropped a little bit, that band, as it was moving away. All right, seeing as we're in the talk to boats mode and it sounds good conditions this morning, I'll try and find Walter on Flying Cloud, Flying Cloud.
Good morning, Patricia. Flying Cloud 2. Our position is 3215.
Yeah, but I've got you the same position almost as yesterday. I've got you 3215 south, and was it 16839 west over?
Negative 16639 west. Over.
Oh, well, I'll let you off then, so you've done a couple of degrees in the right direction. Carry on.
Yeah, we're out on the wing. We're both sailing. Our course is 085 meters. We've had a slightly mild night. With winds up to 30 knots. South of 100 this morning and slightly northeast. 100% cloud cover. Second rain. All well and good, eh?
Okay, all good on board, so that's good to report for people following you. So Flying Cloud has made good progress to the east on their way to Ryber Bay. 3215 16639 west. Sloppy seas a bit. The northeast slowly backing, and like the others, you had winds up to 30 knots last night, and 100% cloud cover. Can you just point out where they are on the satellite picture there? Okay, David will probably make some comments.
I'll do it right now.
Yeah, do it right now. Okay.
So 166. So what are they?
32 166 and a half.
Yep. Boy, you had a mess last night. That's for sure. I could see that on imagery. Tomorrow, however, things are looking pretty good. By tomorrow morning, that band will have drifted off, and you'll be on actually the southern edge of it. The wind should shift with that. I anticipate your winds will be west-northwest, probably about 15 knots in the mean. And unfortunately, there's another front behind you. That'll catch you up in a day or so. So you'll have a bit of time to get a little sun, catch fish, and enjoy the conditions, and then look forward to the next little band that's going to come through. So that's the story. Over.
Okay, and I was just looking at some of the other boats we've got. Anthea is in North Minerva with 100% cloud cover with the westerly wind 9 to 10 knots, and they're going to actually leave today for Fiji later on. Well, funny enough, Messatroy is talking about the humidity up there in the Yasawas. We were just commenting on that ourselves last night, and David reckons he couldn't cope with that these days. Very humid conditions. 25, it's dropped a little bit, but still very warm for a high humidity. Star Charger 4, I'm going to call you in now whilst we've got Graham hanging around the radio there for a moment. I believe you've got a problem with transmit. We certainly haven't heard you here. Star Charger 4, Star Charger 4. Alistair, could you pick up the microphone and give a call to Gulf Harbour Radio, please? Well, I've heard nothing here. I will call you again after David's finished the weather, and if you could give another call, and we'll see if anybody does pick you up. But I've got no copy here, Star Charger 4. Just a bit of news then for people. I know you will be interested in this one. Before you left, some of the boats that have gone, you would have heard the news that Scallywag on the leg from Auckland in the Volvo race lost Australian David Witt overboard, and they have given full details now of what actually happened, and it's a really useful report to sort of give some thought to. Evidently, they'd been sailing very conservatively, more conservatively than usual, because they felt that they were going to pick up speed when they got to the bottom of South America there. But the wind had lifted from about 35 to 45 knots, and Scallywag went down a massive wave and the boat nosedived, and the rudders came out of the water, leaving the boat, of course, impossible to steer. And David Witt was up there tidying up lines in the forepeak somewhere, and he moved back and the boat jibed, and he got hit on the back of the neck with the main sheet, not the boom, which is way higher. He got hit on the back of the neck with the main sheet. Now that's a really sensitive part of the body. We've got a little book here, the KGB book on how to kill people with your hands, and a good chop to the back of the neck actually does it for you. In fact, the people on board thought he was probably dead before being washed overboard, which happened shortly afterwards. They called, but he didn't respond. So they had trouble finding his body because the AIS antenna had broken just after leaving Auckland, so they couldn't track his personal beacon. We actually had, although I never fitted it, I'd bought, just in case the AIS antenna went, I'd bought a switching device so that you could switch your VHF from VHF to AIS, the radio to the AIS, but we never actually fitted it. But it would have been useful. They had a dedicated AIS antenna, as most of us do, and once that went, they didn't have anything left. So that was the story there. Just really, really unfortunate for him on Scallywag. Bits of other news here. Petrol, just as well you're all leaving for the islands, and I hope you've filled up the boat, because I assume diesel is going to be much the same. But the 91 octane, and God knows who still uses 91, our cars need 98. But 91 octane has gone to $2.30 a litre, and they're predicting it to go to $3 in the not too distant future. All sorts of excuses for that, of course, but that's the story there. Italy are going to get a new Prime Minister. They do this fairly frequently, so I don't suppose this is too much of news. They seem to operate without a PM quite well, but they have Giuseppe Conte, a lawyer, of course. The selection process is very complicated. I tried to understand when I read it, but I gave up on that. So for those of you out there from Italy, you will soon have a new Prime Minister. The Chelsea Flower Show is on, which, of course, looking out the window on this dreadful, dull, horrible day here, it's hard to think about beautiful flowers at the flower show, but yes, the flower show is on at the moment, which means it's spring in the northern hemisphere, and we know that after that glorious day we saw for the wedding. There's a few reports from the rest of the country here. It's showery in Opua, showery in Whangarei, and their barometer is 9 and 9 and 9, so it's a bit, they're further away from the low. The low is way down in the south. And it's even got a few showers up there in the Sawas. Thanks, Diego. All right, what other news is there? There's that quite famous Japanese climber. He does all of the peaks in the world. He has attempted Everest 8 times, but this time was his last because he unfortunately died on Everest on his 8th attempt. Shows you though, if you keep plugging away, you might get there, but unfortunately he did not. And we are here in Gulf Harbour Radio now have an MRI not too far away. Those folk that are from this area at the end of Whangaparoa Road at the medical centre there, they've got a very new, spanking brand new 3T MRI machine. So we don't have to go very far to get any medical help. To get the bad news, says David. Which is just as well because you get onto the Hibiscus Highway and you're in stop and go, so you'd probably be even sorer by the time you got further down the line. Okay, anybody wanting anything before we head towards the weather? And I have got the news. We talked about the upper levels yesterday for those that have, like me, seen the light. Well, just go to the website www.ghradio.co.nz, and if you scroll down on that lead page, you click on the weather, the Learn More button on the weather, which I'm doing at the moment, and then there's a whole raft of papers, and this is going to be particularly useful for those people with nothing to do while they wait for good weather to leave New Zealand. you will see 500 hectopascal analysis and important weather aid for cruisers, and you click on that. Now, I've left the original paper there, which gives some examples and discusses how you can interpret these things. But at the very end of it, David has made the addition of the site that he uses now. He used to use Weather Online, but it's now been superseded by a very good NOAA site. And I have put the address. It's incredibly long because otherwise I'd have to step you through a whole pile of steps to get to it. So you go to this particular site, just click on it if you've got internet connection, and then it will take you and you can work from there. So it is actually quite useful. There's it's good at the moment too because you can see what's causing this frontal system that is affecting the boats that are up there, sort of around the Minerva area and a little bit north. So it's quite a good education thing, and it will give you something to do while you sit inside with the stormy weather that's outside at the moment. Okay, anybody with anything before we move to weather?
Amazing Grace, Margarita.
Well, we've got quite a few here. I've got Trigger, Amazing Grace, Margarita, and I think there was another, but let's start with you, Chris. Trigger, go ahead.
Trigger position 1829 1335. Course 316 magnetic. Speed 6.2 rotary. Wind northeast 4 up. 12 left off. 36. 101. Only a couple of more to do that.
Okay, good, brief, accurate report. 1829 17835 east on their way to Suva in a couple of days' time. Pretty light winds, motor sailing. Northeast 4. So not too much wind up there, and clear of the mess. Only 30% cloud cover. Thank you for that. Amazing Grace. Go ahead, John.
Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, David. We're doing very nicely here on board. Our current position is 2614 south, 17942 east. Have essentially zero cloud cover. Barometer is at 1001. Non-strike gap 1011, and we are at course of 010 true, around 5.3, wind is southwest, about 8-10 knots, over.
Okay, we have Amazing Grace at 2614 and 17942 east, with a southwest of 8 to 10 and a glorious 0% cloud cover 1011. So all doing well on Amazing Grace, despite you haven't actually explained what's wrong and why you're going to Fiji to haul out. But we'll read carefully your next report and maybe you'll explain that.
If you look to the north, you should see the
Yes,
cloud band.
you should see the cloud band if you look to the north, says David, but it might be a little bit dark at the moment for that. All right, we'll clear with you and move on quickly to Margarita. Margarita, go ahead.
Good morning, Patricia. I emailed in our position, etc. Did you get that over?
Yes, I have, and I haven't really had a chance to talk about positions or the reports from boats yet, but let me see where it was. I think it was way earlier on. Oh, no, I haven't got your one this morning. So, no, I haven't got it. Over.
Okay, so position is 3241 south, 17540 west. Over.
Yep, carry on.
Wind is westerly at 5 to 10 knots. Zero cloud cover, barometer 1008 millibars and steady. And we've got a slight sea from the west. Over.
And course and speed.
Course is 045 true at 6 knots, motor sailing. Over.
Yep, everyone's using a bit of fuel out there. which they probably didn't know that it was going up in price. Okay, a really good copy on you. So at 32.41, 175.40 west. I don't know why you're coming in so well. It's interesting radio conditions today.
Well, lunch, you should have a lot more
Westerly 5 to 10, and David said by lunch you're going to have considerably more wind, so you'll probably be turning the diesel off at that stage. There was somebody in behind Margarita. Who was that?
Elysium WDE 5633.
Oh, Elysium, go ahead. Over.
I sent it in. I'm just curious if David would review the potential for Minerva in the next 5 to 10 days. Over.
Alrighty, yes, I think he will be covering that, David. So Elysium definitely will be sitting at Minerva for a bit, and we'll look at leaving there over the next 5 to 10 days. Just to repeat, the winds at Minerva, this was half an hour ago, west-northwest 15 to 20. Lightning to the south and east last evening. Yep. Another trough. So I'm going to pass the microphone. He might want to cover that now. No, he's going to cover that within the bulk of the report. And if he doesn't, then just get back to us at the end. Good signals from everyone this morning, which is an absolute joy. Here's David with the weather.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And, well, there will be a lot of boats at Minerva, I suppose. So I think I'm going to go through the weather for all of the islands. And when I get done, I'll give the mic back to the chief there, and I'll take a look at sort of the prognosis for Minerva, and then get back to you on the radio. So we'll do this at the end. All right, I think today we're just going to get on with the synoptic picture. You've got a pretty good idea what's going on in the upper levels from yesterday. So there's a bit to talk about. It's going to be a bit confusing, so I'm going to talk as slowly as possible, and hopefully you'll be able to get out of it what you need. So anyhow, as forecast, we have wind here in New Zealand. As Patricia said, right at the moment, well, it just picked up. Boy, it goes to show that the
rain and
light air just did not last. We've got pouring rain and quite a bit of wind. So there will be lots of it today. Gale warnings are up for Sea Area Brett and Kaipara. So we're looking at 35 knots southwest, plus a pretty good chance for continued showers and very poor visibility. It's poor right now. We can barely see the bay out there. And offshore it would be just as bad. Tomorrow is a bit of an ease, if you can call it that, southwest 25, but shifting to northwest 30 in the afternoon. Well, if this is not bad enough, old Mother Nature is giving us another shift on Saturday. We're looking at southwest 35. That's a 3 and a 5. So pretty rough seas out there, folks. So any departures may not be a great idea. We'll have a number of fronts crossing the North Island right through Sunday. In fact, today I count 6 fronts and troughs over the country. I'm looking at satellite imagery, and it's amazing. There's just so many of them. For the yachts that have already left and are up there around 25 south, we have a special cold front for you, and that's preceded by a trough. Now the trough itself is going to cross the 30 south mark at 175 west, and then move north. It will have arced up from East Cape and is extending itself to the Loyalties and also Vanuatu. So that's going to be moving to the north. Now, those of you that are a little bit further south that are near 30 and say around 177 east, I've got pretty good news for this morning, as the trough that was over you has moved north a bit. But there is a weak cold front that's quite broken. It's probably going to catch up with you probably by lunchtime. Now, there's not a whole lot in this particular frontal band, but it's moving pretty quickly. And actually, it's passing through the northern part of the North Island this morning. So it's going to get up to that 30 south quite fast. It's probably moving about 30 knots. Now, another band should arrive at 30 south by tomorrow morning, as the first one reaches northern Vanuatu, and a secondary looks to reach Tonga, Tapu, and Fiji. So just a huge amount of activity out there. Now, looking at winds at, say, 30 south for today, expect west to probably west-southwest. And some areas could have west-northwest. Now, north of 30, they shift to southerlies and all the way up to the trough. They're feeding the bottom edge of the trough that's moving north. And on the north side of the trough, we've got very light west to northwest winds. And I think that was reported by the yacht that's heading towards Suva. Now, by Thursday lunch, tomorrow by lunch, at about 25 south, you could expect southerlies. They'll be pretty light. Then further north, light to moderate southeasterlies. And by midnight tomorrow, that's Thursday, the winds to Fiji and Tonga should be, again, light to moderate southeasterlies as well. But the trough over these countries look to strengthen a bit, and they'll actually get a bit worse by late Friday. Now, the convective activity that is over Vanuatu is going to intensify. And by late Saturday, the area of intensification is going to involve New Caledonia, probably all of Vanuatu, and Fiji and Tonga are going to get parts of it as well. Now, the winds near Fiji will probably be southeast 20 to 25 knots, and Tonga south to south-southeast about 15 to 20. Now, GFS is looking at a depression forming over Fiji by late Sunday. So hopefully everyone is going to be snug at anchor by then. All of you that are underway at the moment, a lot of you are at 25, roughly 25. Some of you around 30. So pedal to the metal to get up there before the weekend. Now, EC does not pick up this depression, but in its place it does show quite an invigorated trough that will lie over Fiji and Tonga. Either way, whether it's a depression or an invigorated trough, it's going to be pretty inclement weather. So that's the reason for trying to get in before all of that develops. Now, looking forward, looking at the prods, the next weekend, the weekend of June 2nd and 3rd, I guess it is, that doesn't look very good either, because we see a depression looking like it's bearing down on New Zealand. It's to the west of New Zealand. But a front from it is going to be extending north to Vanuatu. And that means the passage route winds are going to be northerly quadrant. So that's not good news. Now, this is a week away, and things are more than likely going to change by then. We'll keep looking for you, which seems like a rather an elusive window to get going. The folks that are already underway, probably that's about the last of it for a bit. So hopefully, again, the ones that are on passage will keep it moving and get up there before the weekend if possible. So now briefly we'll look at the islands. Tonga, the edge of the trough is very close to Tonga Tapu. Scattered cloud is probably affecting the entire kingdom as the day rolls on. So possibility of brief showers for today. The winds mostly northeast, give or take on that direction, and in the 10 to 15 knot range. Tomorrow we'll see a shift to southeasterlies, and they'll also be fairly light to moderate, call it 10 to 15 as well. Now, Fiji has scattered a broken cloud this morning. Looking at imagery, the main trough is nearing the group, but not quite there yet. If you draw a diagonal through the Coro Sea. In other words, northwest to southeast, just draw a line right through the Coro Sea. The winds east of this line should be northeasterlies today. West of the line, we're looking at very light southeasterlies. Now, by Thursday morning, this is tomorrow, all the winds look to be light southeast, about 10 to 12 knots or so. And by Sunday, expect fresh winds now in the southwest of the group. I would say the winds are going to be southeast 25 to maybe 30 knots. So batten down the hatches on Sunday. And again, the reason for that is that either depression forming or the invigorated trough. So again, either way, it's going to be pretty crummy. Now, Vanuatu's cloud is quite broken this morning as the trough that is over Vanuatu weakens considerably. Although east of the banks, I'm picking up an active thunderstorms. It's an area of quite a bit of convective activity there. And for the Anishim area, I see rain showers, but not so bad in between those two spots. Wind generally southeast, fairly light north of Afate, but from Afate to Anishim, it looks like it may wind up being up to 20 knots of wind. The winds tomorrow look to be southeast 20 almost everywhere. West of Santo, we could be looking at 25 knots. But don't forget, we have these big wind shadows that are on the immediate western side of these big islands. So you get a lot of protection in those western bays. New Caledonia looks much better this morning. Most of the cloud from the trough that's gone through, it's moved on. Winds in the southern lagoon, including Ile de Pan, look like south-southwest, around 10 to 15 knots, not bad at all. By midnight, winds will be mostly southerly, and by lunch tomorrow, I would think southeast about 10 to 15 knots. So that's the story, and I haven't forgotten about going to the Lao. And hang on, I'm going to give this to the chief right now, who's busy working here on the computer. And while I take a look.
I forgot to put in the minutes for Anahata, who are they're wanting winds to back actually. So we'll have to answer that question as well. Anahata is, let me tell you where Anahata is, 24.5 and 176.5, and wanting winds to back to the east. All right, there's quite a few in, and Margarita, I cancel that statement I made. Your report didn't come in on YIT, but you sent an email. I do appreciate the reports coming in on the YIT site, folks, because that's what I tend to look at if we're sort of dealing with the 7 o'clock to 15:15 time frame, because it's nice and easy for me to see everything and compare votes in one place or another. So it takes a little bit more time to look at the emails that come in. So yes, I have got the report from you, and we've also got the discussion of when is a good time to leave Minerva. All right, let's just have a look at streaming whilst David is looking at that. Well, we've got one convert up there on the looking at the upper levels. Eagle's Wings are looking at the loop. So even if we only get 1 or 2 converts a year, I suppose that's not too bad. And boy, the weather outside here is pretty damn horrible at the moment. I think we will be needing something to do inside today. Pretty much everywhere will be coming in bands. All right, I'm going to pass the microphone back to answer that question, and then David can talk about the likelihood and when it is better to leave Minerva. Here's David.
Okay, well, starting off with the Lao, getting over to the Lao, you know what it's looking like today and tomorrow. On Friday, it's not so bad. We're looking at east-southeast. They're probably going to be about 15 knots, maybe even 15 to 20 out of the east-southeast. Looking at Saturday, Saturday and Sunday, remember, this is when we've got model disagreement, and we do have either the possibility of that depression or convective activity from the trough. So Saturday, the winds are going to be basically easterlies in the Lau. Looking at Sunday, they go back to the southeast, and they're a good 20 knots, and there'll be areas of 20 to 25. Monday, the southern Lau is very, very windy. We're looking at 25 to 30 knots in the southern Lau. The northern Lau, not so bad. East to east, northeast, much lighter than that. And looking at Tuesday, southeast winds for almost all of Fiji, including the Lau, and that's in the neighborhood to the, well, in the Lau area, we're looking at 20 knots to maybe 25, but looking between the two big islands, not so bad. Still southeast, but about 15 to 20 knots. And now let's take a look at Minerva Reef, and looking at, well, we'll back up to, let's say, the Sunday time frame. So looking at Sunday for Minerva, Minerva is at the southern edge of this activity that's going to be picking up in the Fiji, Tonga area. So I would say the winds on Sunday are looking like southeast up to 25 knots. And there could very well be quite a bit of convective activity. So all of your diving and whatnot should probably take place before Sunday. Looking at the Monday time frame, things are a little bit better for Minerva. I would say south-southeast. They're still strong. There is a frontal band that will probably go through on that day. So we're looking 20, maybe 25 knots south-southeast, again with the front. Tuesday, much better. Tuesday, it lightens up considerably. I would say south to south-southeast, 10, 12, 13 knots right in there. There is a frontal band just to the south, which will probably go through Minerva probably midnight on Tuesday, if I had to make a wild guess. And Wednesday, the winds shift to almost easterlies at Minerva. I'd say about 15 knots, and that's about as far out as I can go to be of any real practical value. In fact, that's a little too far out for any real accuracy. So that's your story between now and next Wednesday, a week from now. So hopefully that'll be of some use to you. Again, get your enjoyment in the next few days before the weekend, and then be sure that you're well anchored by that time. And that's it. I'll give it back to Patricia to see what else we've got.
And we'll answer the question from Anahata in a short moment. I was just chuckling about Minerva. It's certainly well worthwhile putting your dinghy in the water. My captain, whenever we went in, there was always, I'm not putting the dinghy in the water, because of course he tied it to the foredeck with about 1,000 lines and knots and all the rest of it, and didn't want to have to put it all back together again.
We waited for another boat.
Yes, that's it. We waited. We'd always wait for another boat to with younger, fitter people who had their dinghy more accessible. And there was various schemes for doing that. One time we went in, a boat was already there. I remember Otter, single-hander, and he had a bowsprit, and we at the time had a bowsprit because we were in a Hans Christian 38, and so we decided that anybody that came in without a bowsprit would have to put their dinghy in the water. And a boat did come in, but they tried to make a pretend bowsprit. They had one of these extensions for their spinnaker that came out. It was a J-boat, I think.
We disqualified.
We disqualified him, and so he very kindly put his dinghy in the water. They were good sorts. Anyway, the question that David is going to answer next is a boat is at 24 and a half, roughly, and 176. Let's call it 24 and 176.
East or west?
And he wants, he's got southwest, east, and he wants winds, this is David on Anahata, wants the winds to back to the southeast. So when is that going to happen, or is it going to happen? Here's David. Still cogitating on that one. So just stand by, and I am going to call for Star Charger in a minute. So stand by the radio, Star Charger.
Well, you're at almost there at 25. Well, if you get up to a little bit above 25, 23, 24, you'll have southerlies, and this is tomorrow at lunchtime. But if you've only gotten by then to 25, well, you would have to, because you're already at 24, 48. So you're past 25. So what am I talking about? I would say that you're looking at tomorrow around lunch. The winds are going to slowly start to veer and go from your southwest to south-southwest and then eventually south. By lunch tomorrow also, if you happen to get up to, well, you wouldn't possibly get up that fast. But to give you an example, at 21 south, we're looking at southeast. Those are your southeasterlies. So I don't know if you're going into Minerva or not, but it sounds like you're not. But in any case, that's what it looks like. They'll eventually veer, so things will improve for you. And then by midnight on Thursday, that's tomorrow, for sure, southeast, but there is another band coming through, another very weak frontal band that's going to cut right through 25 in the date line by midnight tomorrow night. The winds don't change a whole lot on either side of this band, so essentially they're southeasterly quadrant, if you will. So hopefully that's good news.
And the inevitable question has come in on streaming about the departure from New Zealand, but I think he's covered that.
Not this weekend.
Yeah, certainly not this weekend. So you'll just have to find something to do and tune in again on Monday. Star Charger 4, Star Charger 4. Please give me a call a couple of times, Alistair. Star Charger 4, go ahead. Did anybody hear anything from Star Charger 4? We're trying to work out what might be amiss with his radio. He is hearing okay, but not able to transmit. Anybody here, Alistair, on Star Charger 4? Thanks, Graham. So nothing heard, Alistair. You're going to have to check things out. You should be able to, I don't even know what sort of radio you've got, so it's a little bit hard to give any advice. But you should be seeing something if you've got an icon. Let's guess that you've got an icon. When you transmit, you should be seeing the little lines come across the bottom to show you the power that you're putting out. So with the absence of that, just make sure you are on high power. Push the function button and just check with, I can't remember whether it's the RX or the TX button to show you the power. You do need to be on power 3. 1, 2, 3 is the options. Power 3 is the 150 watts. So just check things through, get out the old manual and make sure that you haven't got something strange. I'm just assuming that you've got all of the proper grounding system in, the copper foil to give you a good takeoff there. But anyway, when you get to wherever you're going to have to get someone to have a look at that. Okay, any other questions from anybody? Oh, hang on, the microphone is heading to the guru.
I am not the guru. I hate that. Okay, we said not this weekend, and again, that's because we're pretty conservative, but actually the weekend is quite grim. But if you look at Monday morning, okay, you could be very tempted to say, let's go because we've got southerlies. I'm sure you see that on your grids. And I'm sure you also see the convective area that's up there around the Fiji department. And there'll be a bit of a squash in between the two. But, you know, the southerlies, you know, that's doable. And then as we roll into the week, Tuesday and Wednesday, it's very light air. And it looks pretty good, doesn't it? Right through Wednesday. But then we get to Friday, and Friday is the problem area because that is when we have the depression that's in the Tasman, and we have the frontal band that's over New Zealand again, another one, and it extends up toward Vanuatu. So that's going to make the winds on the passage route northerly, and that's why I said it doesn't look very good. So if you were a rocket ship, you could maybe get to, well, again, I don't know where you're going, but you possibly, by Thursday, if you were incredibly fast, you might get to Minerva, but that's almost impossible leaving on Monday. So it just doesn't look that good as far as we're concerned. It's very, very tempting. The models may change, and if that front does slow down and it doesn't get here on June 1st, if it stays in the Tasman, then it might be okay. But we won't know that until the week rolls on here and we see what things are looking like as we get closer to the weekend. And we'll keep you informed. Believe me, we're looking for the windows, and I know you
we want to get rid
need
of
one.
them.
So we're very careful on examining all of this, but that's what it looks like now. So here's Patricia.
All right, and I'm just about ready to turn off streaming efficiently today. I managed to close the computer, the streaming computer yesterday, and it turned itself back on, and so I didn't discover we had 6 hours of nothing going out yesterday. Sorry about that. Is there anybody else with anything before we close it down? Oh, good morning to Rewa. Where are you guys?
Good morning, good morning. I am at 187 wind is out of the northwest at 17 knots. I am making 350 per minute, doing about 8 knots. And my specific question is, I am plagued by my head too long again this year. Either my generator or my basic. And I am taking some care of and wondering what the reason will be as I approach the west end of Fiji there for General on that Saturday, Sunday time frame. I'm going to have to sail into the reef, so I'm interested in wind conditions on Saturday and Sunday. You talk about that the present something, so can you explain that anymore in the General area?
Yeah, certainly, and I'll make a note, Asterisk, to keep covering that for you as the days go by towards Saturday, Sunday, looking carefully now at the wind at Denarau at that time because of the problem with fuel and generator and generally lack of alternative power on board Rewa. And just to let people know, for those that didn't hear, they are at roughly 28 and 178 east with a northwest of 17, northwest 17 at the moment. So no complaints at the moment, racing along at 8 knots. But here's David.
Well, looking at Sunday morning, there's a lot of wind that is going to be from Kundabu all the way up to the Denarau area. We're looking at a good 25 knots out of the southeast, and that's a mean wind. So it could be much higher in the gusts. It all depends on this system, what it does. If it actually turns into a depression, there'll be more wind in it. If it's just a trough, I shouldn't say just a trough because they could be just as nasty. You'll have wind, but it may not quite be as much. Depends on how tall the thunderstorms get. So a lot of wind on Sunday, and that's Sunday early. On around dinner time on Sunday, there's areas where we're looking at a good mean wind of 30 knots. So that's not looking very good at all. However, that goes right into Monday as well. All out of the southeast at the moment, as far as what I'm looking at. Monday, 20 knots, 25 knots. Looking at
Saturday, Sunday,
looking at Tuesday.
Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, well, I gave that.
Oh.
Saturday. Well, okay.
We'll
take a look at Saturday. Saturday is sort of an enigma because I'm looking at French modeling, which I like to do quite often, and they're calling off pretty light air for Saturday, early Saturday into lunch. So they're all southeast winds, but about 10 to 15 knots. Now, whether or not that'll really happen based upon the projections for the troughing, I don't know. But at the moment, that's what the model, the French modeling is calling off. So we'll take a look at GFS, which I'm sure you get on your grids, and they don't quite agree with this. GFS is looking at much stronger winds, 20, 25, and a lot of convective activity. But again, they always tend to blow these things up a bit. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's a ways out, and this is only, Wednesday.
Yeah.
So just keep reminding us, and we'll keep giving you what the prognosis is for that area. Over.
Yeah, Roger that. I appreciate it. But it looks like the wind will be easterly for Canadian land. Will be somewhere out of the southern quadrant, somewhere out of the southern quadrant. Is that correct?
Southern quadrant. Is that what it's going to be in July? He's just looking carefully to confirm. And whilst he's doing that, I was just reminding myself to go onto the Whistler site this afternoon. Margie takes wonderful photos. So David's just checking where you are at the moment, that Rewa's looking. But yeah, and Marge, they caught a mahi-mahi. I think that's the second fish that's been caught this season. Looks as if it's going to be a good fishing season. I can't remember who the last one was, the first one. But they got a mahi-mahi up there near Taveuni yesterday, so they'll be eating well. And Margie posts wonderful pictures on their website, which is svwhistler.com. So you folk that are stuck in your boats this afternoon with internet access in New Zealand can have a look at that and think how good it was to have left early. This weather that we're getting at the moment, if you recall last year, it was pretty much the same through May last year. It was a pretty grim month for getting away. So we'll wait and see what the weekend does in the early June Queen's birthday time frame. Okay, back to David.
I think by tonight the winds will back a bit to probably westerlies. You'll be, 20, maybe 26, 50, something like that. And we'll just keep the 177, 178. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of north in that, not northwest, I don't think. But you do have a frontal band that's behind you that's coming north, and that will be over you probably by, I would say tomorrow, late tomorrow, but it's quite broken by then. You may get very, very little cloud out of it. The wind, though, is good because it changes to the south-southeast by that point in time. Over.
Yeah, Roger that. The only other question I have is if you have any thoughts about for my school, my study weather, other than
Okay, it's a pity you don't have a wind generator. You'd certainly be putting it in then. So looking at the cloud cover for the solar panels over the next few days, and you'll probably not be wanting to talk too much on the radio either. So we'll look at the solar situation. He's looking at the way the satellite...
There's front after front.
Yeah, there's front after front. So you're just going to have to get them oriented when you do get a bit of a break in the weather, I'm afraid, because there's just a stream of things, as we can assure you, coming from New Zealand.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame in terms of that. I mean, there's breaks between all of these, and some of these frontal bands are broken themselves. So you have breaks between, and then in the band itself, you'll get areas of sun peeking through. You don't, as you know, you don't actually need to even see the sun to get some benefit out of it in terms of the panels. Obviously, they'll be reduced. So the whole Southwest Pacific is full of cloud, interspersed with short periods of sunshine from what I could see. So not a great look for solar panels, I'm afraid. Over.
And I will, of course, be sending by the future report.
All right, thanks, David. And is there anybody else before we go back to the morning paper? No, nothing heard, and we'll leave you all to your day wherever you are. The frequency is now clear and all yours. Patricia and David, Gulf Harbour Radio, signing off. Cheers. Now let me.